Hey, everybody. This is the Two Old Bucks again on episode 152. And this is Old Buck Dale doing the intro. And with me, of course, is my good buddy, is
Old Buck Dave. Old Buck
Old Buck,
Dave's back again.
Old Buck Dave. Old Buck Dave. You're still out traveling around out there.
I am still hanging out in the Berg. Yeah, it's again the wonderful weather continues. I hate to
Rub it in.
rub it in. I'm rubbing it in, I guess. Had a terrific 30-mile bike ride yesterday on a trail, dirt trail, with a couple old buddies from up here. It was a wonderful time. It's 59 degrees when we left, about 64 degrees when we got back. It was just perfect. It's in the 60s today, so it's just the way I like it.
Well, that's actually really good for you because you've missed some of that kind of riding in the local heat. So I'm glad for you, buddy. I'm glad for you. Certainly glad for you.
Yeah. Hey, here's some good news. Our episode last week with Tahoe Toogee.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've been getting rave reviews, man. I'll tell you. Toogee's already in our top 10, and it's less than a week old. So go Toogee, man. That's great. People, the people have spoken. Like, we got a lot of stuff about people learning a lot of stuff about bears, stuff they didn't know. One of your best episodes, bring back Toogee. We want more Toogee. We talk about other stuff. He was a real hit with the folks. So we're gonna have to bring him back.
Well, with a name like Toogee, it has to be good.
You got to be special. Absolutely. And he was, yeah. Hey, in other news, if you remember Jean-Luc Montois, who I interviewed in episode 141. That was the fella who lived in the Palais de la Cathédrale in Saint Omer, France, and he allowed us to stay there one night. His house is like a museum, and I think I had mentioned that he was putting the place up for sale. Actually,
wow!
He's now putting all his artwork and his collectibles and furniture and all that sort of thing. It's going up for auction. So I'll put a link to his auction. I think it's around October 10th, something like that. But I'll put a link to the auction. It's an enormous collection. It's worth looking at the link just to see all the stuff that I was trying to describe that he had in his house. It's incredible. So,
I find that interesting because the way when you're out in the field like that, I trust what you see. And if it was that awesome, wonder why he's going to let this whole thing go. I guess he's made a decision not to change course or something. Isn't that interesting? All the stuff he
yeah.
collected.
Well, if you recall, he said he was his mother is in poor health, and he's going to sell the place, move back in with mom, take care of mom. Plus, the whole collecting thing has gotten overwhelming. If you recall, he said the best advice I can offer to somebody who's thinking about starting a collection is don't. So I think it's a disease.
All the best to him, and that the downsizing, so to speak.
So what's going on in your world?
Well, I had a very interesting thing happen the other day. The wife and I were parked in front of a store and a little strip mall kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So when I found a parking place by the store, I decided it was easier to back in, you know what I mean? Because there was nothing on the other side. Nobody was behind me. I was against a small shrub fence. So I backed in, and I was waiting for her to drop a package off, and then we were going to go our merry way, So she came out and got in the car, and we were discussing whether to go left or go right. And then it's right in front of me, or right outside the window. It sounded like a cannon. I like a cannon went off. I
Mm.
mean, just a giant bang. And I mean, I jumped and I looked around and literally right in front of my car was a pickup truck, a big, I think an F-250 or 350, but a big pickup truck.
Big honking truck, as they say.
A big truck, and the right tire had a big gash in it, and the tire was flat. So I said, my first thought was, I think I think he must have blown the tire literally right in front of me.
Okay.
But but what happened was, and I'm coming up to a point here. Uh, the car next to me, a lady had been walking. She came out. I sort of noticed but unnoticed. One of those things are happening around you. You're not paying attention to it. She got in her car, started up, and backed out. Okay, so she backed up with not looking. This pickup truck was coming down along the front of this mall, close to the front of the cars, and he wasn't going very slow either. So she backed out, and she was just had a little bit of a turn to it, not straight back out. You know what I mean? She was a little bit of front wheels a turn. She was backing out at an angle, and bang, he catches her with his right rear on her right rear. And I said, my soul. So once I calmed down, opened the door, got out of the car, I found a big piece of the back of the car, which I thought was a tailgate or something. Turned out to be a plastic cover over the tailgate, laying on the ground. I said, oh boy, he just nicked that off. Then I went around to the other side of the car where the two, sort of the two fenders met. Now, the truck wasn't too bad. I think it was the wheel that hit. He did most of the damage. But that whole, let's see, the right rear of her car was peeled back and smashed up. Tail light, everything over there, plus half the back tailgate, or on an SUV, that flip gate. You know what I mean? How that
So,
tailgate comes
in
up
other
like a
words, it was
trunk.
kind of a mess.
It was a big mess. It was a big mess. So she gets out of the car. I gets out of the car. And you said, you okay? She puts her hands on her head. She's going, and she says, oh no, oh no. I said, you're going to be okay. She said, my insurance, my insurance.
First thing she
At
says,
first he said, is my insurance. And I thought about that.
this
And
must have happened in Florida.
this happened in Florida.
The
She
land
said,
of the uninsurable. Yeah.
and I went around and looked at the car. I told my wife later, I said, I'll bet you they totaled that car. I mean, it was the way that the rear side was hit. I don't think you could
Yeah.
repair that,
Uh-huh.
but which made me think of car insurance and how expensive car insurance is for us folks not in Florida. For any of
Yes.
our Florida listeners, I think they may concur. I one time queried why it was such a big jump in rates, because you know how they do. They start out they win you over at a decent price. Next year it's 100, and next year it's 200, and then within a year and a half they're back up to the $10,000 a year figure. But you know what I mean, Dave. You
I
you
do
read
know
you
what
had a
you
car
mean.
insurance issue, so I asked this woman. I said, why are you folks raising? She said, well, you're in a high accident area. I said,
Mhm.
well, we don't drive that much. Well, I guess the way they look at the odds is, even if you're only driving 9,000 miles a year, everybody's doing 9,000 miles a year, but they're wrecking into each other
Yeah.
left and right.
We got 22 million people here doing 9,000 miles a year. It's still a
Yeah,
lot of miles.
yeah, it's not a lot of miles, but they just have these accidents. And the cars, I don't think, you an accident like that, really, I think the car is shot. They wouldn't even try to fix it. There's just too much damage on the right
Yeah.
rear
Yeah.
to even put that thing back together the way they build them. So I thought that was an interesting thing. And I am always concerned about car insurance, because everybody feels that they shouldn't be charged that much. Since I'm a good driver, I've never met any bad drivers. So
Everybody's an above average driver. Just remember that.
that's right. Ask anybody who kind of
Ask
driver they're.
anybody.
Hey,
Yeah.
I had something I wanted to ask you too when we had a chance to zoom in.
Yeah. Talk to me.
Have you ever heard of? I think it's spelled Lemerre syndrome.
Never heard of it. What is it?
It's spelled Lemierre syndrome.
Is it something you have or?
I've never heard of it either, but I know a person that came down with this. It's a young man. It afflicts a young people, say between 12 and maybe 23. I think is what I read. So it's a young person's ailment, and it's a terrific bacterial infection.
Mm-hmm.
And I only mention it because maybe 3 people out of a million may come down with this. I mean, that's rare. And
So,
I mentioned it also because when I asked about the boy, it the scary part was they were before you even find out the name of this thing, nobody knows what it is. Do you know what I mean? To be in a
oh yeah,
position
of
where we just don't
course.
know what's causing your problems, Dave. We don't know why you feel that way.
Yeah.
And then you go through about 2 weeks of testing. I think in this case it might have been a week or so of all the stuff they could think of. And then I guess what happens after that, they must go into their education books or their Grey's Anatomy and start trying to put this together because normal antibiotics wasn't calming the fever and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very scary disease and a long recovery period. Something like it could be 3 to 6 months before you are completely rid of the.
What is it exactly? And what are the symptoms? And is it
It's you just you start
bacteria?
running real high fever, and you clearly have an infection that's in your throat and your sinuses. I mean, they can sort of pinpoint the area of the infection, but they don't know what's causing it. And once they start tracking it down for meningitis and this and that and the other thing, and really, really scary. I really felt bad for the young man. Fortunately, he was an athlete and was in pretty good shape. Otherwise, this is pretty rough. A rough go for a young man to go through. I imagine. And if you don't, it said it didn't occur too much in elderly people. I don't know how anybody else could survive that. But I mentioned it to you because I never heard of it, and B, what it takes, to find something that only you have, and when you have it, it turns out to be a syndrome. You're thinking, boy, if
Mhm.
they'd have found it just about 5 days earlier, I'd have felt a lot better. But it takes a week to figure this out. No, the doctors aren't familiar with it. They don't know what they're looking for. We got those strange things, those bacteria in Florida that get in your ear and then sometimes start uh, chewing on your brain in
What?
Florida.
What? What? I can't hear you. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
The one in Florida, those guys swimming in those ponds and
Yeah, oh
that came
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah. You get that stuff in your yep.
Yeah.
Eat your brain.
So a lot of strange stuff.
I might explain a lot about Floridians, Florida man. Of course, that would be us.
Well, that would be us, and I'm thinking because of the different climate, some things, water is a little bit warmer. A lot of those little bugs survive in that water thing. I haven't been too many ponds. I haven't swam any fresh water lately. I'm happy that I can drink. I mean, I'm safe to drink the tap water.
Drinking is good enough. Close enough. Yeah.
Close it up. So,
Honest. Okay. You got any other bright shining moments here?
well, I have you know, my mind is like a Rolodex, a spinning Rolodex.
That's it's been said that has actually been said about you. Yes.
I know, and I give credit to the author of that. But I was going to ask you a question. Did it occurred to me the other day when I wondered to myself, how do I know to get out of the correct side of the bed? How do I know that I should get out on a certain side of the bed, either, for a bathroom break or just to get up?
Well, I guess it depends whether you want to roll over your wife or not. I don't know. Uh,
Well, that's
is this a
so
challenge for you? I'm
No,
going to have to start putting feelers out for new bucks. I'm getting a little worried here, buddy.
no, if you roll that way, of course you can run into somebody and you can figure it out. But let's say
Somebody, yeah.
I was thinking, I said, generally you look at the position of the room. So you could put the bed on the other wall so that it would face a different direction. You could turn it 180 degrees. You could do something like that. But I think you somehow have an internal memory that makes you know that this is the side you have to get out of because you see it before you go in. And then I said, I'll bet it has to do with external sensory things. Like there's a little light under the bathroom door. There's some light coming through the window, something that gives you a clue of what direction you're going to. But then I thought, what if it was completely dark? You didn't know what the position of the bed was in when you went in. And, there was no external light sources that could give you a direction. I wonder if you could remember. Then I said to myself,
Oh,
I said, I wonder what happens when you forget. I wonder. I wonder if it ever comes to the point where you just don't remember which side of the bed you got on. You get up and you walk right into a wall or something like that. I don't know what made me think of that, but I thought about a friend of mine with dementia. I think, I wonder if he reaches a stage where he just doesn't know what side of the bed to get out of.
Well, at least you're not overthinking this.
I don't know. Am I overthinking it? You know? Hey, I'm an old buck, and for some reason that just struck me that I'm pretty clever, that I can always manage to get up and get off the correct side.
You're clever enough to figure out how to get out on the right side of the bed. I'm gonna write that down. All right.
I'm sure there's some old bucks out there. I mean, if you can't remember to do that, you probably have reached the other stage of old buckdom.
Probably not listening to this show.
Yeah, they're probably not listening to the show. But
yeah.
I'll have to get somebody that there must be some research on it, or maybe Ranger Rick or somebody who does the technical follow-up for these things will figure out that somebody figured up. If you go to completely or in a dark room and you don't know what side it is, you just don't know which side the wall's on. So
okay, well, actually I feel sorry for you.
Hey, let's segue to another subject.
But I will admit that traveling and being in various hotel rooms, I've certainly awakened and not know where I was. Couldn't remember what city I was in. That's happened to me more than once back when I was doing a lot of traveling in the work days. But I always knew I could never had a problem deciding which side of the bed I was getting out of, though. I don't know. Well, let's talk about something else.
Of course. I was gonna mention to you about our the anticipated. I stayed up to watch that Jets game. Anticipating see quarterback Rodgers play, and like a fool, I did stay up to see the whole thing practically.
Well, you didn't have to stay up long to see Rodgers.
No, I didn't, and that was then, of course. I only mention this because the funny thing about it, they immediately said that this incident with him and all the hoopla before he got on the field is going to lead the headlines for weeks. And he was right. I must have read 3 or 4 articles, read and heard 6 commentators talk about this injury and an Achilles tendon. That's pretty tough to break. So it must have been I mean, I looked at that picture. I thought maybe his foot was just overextended.
Well, it's funny. I was reading a story in the sports page this morning. Andrew McCutchen, the Pittsburgh Steelers, also tore his Achilles tendon. Now his was a partial tear; it wasn't a full tear like Rodgers. But the article said that a torn Achilles tendon is the prime candidates are mainly guys, but people who are athletes but aging. Okay, so they're still young enough to perform top level as an athlete, but their body has aged to the point where things are starting to stiffen up, i.e., the Achilles tendon, and so you still have enough power to tear it, as you get older, you kind of do everything less vigorously. So that's why old people typically don't get torn Achilles tendon. Little trivia there. I thought that was kind of interesting. It's kind of like getting out
Well,
of bed in the morning.
well,
Not gonna let it go.
I've always admired the Achilles tendon because that without that that tendon on the back of your foot there, it pretty much makes your foot useless, doesn't it? It's like it's a key factor in being able to do anything with your
Yeah, it's sort
walking.
of messed up Achilles. I got to tell you, that was a while ago.
Well, that's how it's got its name, right? Isn't
That is how it's got its name.
it? What made me think that is funny? The man who suffered the first tear gets to gets to name the disease. So, oh, I discovered something else in my travels. You want to hear this one? It's
I'm
just
yeah.
it's just between me and you. I always think I'm on a phone call with you. Not that somebody else would hear this, but I discovered I discovered something the other day that gave me pause. How should I say that? No other way to put it. Made me think about this. I admitted that I do enjoy a cigar every now and then, and I don't try to overdo that little vice, but I do enjoy a good cigar every now and then. And I had not really had a cigar in quite some time. So the other day I went to my favorite cigar store and I figured I'd just, you need an emergency cigar, should have an emergency cigar around just in case.
Just in case, of
Yeah,
course. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah.
I know what you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I figured I said, let me just grab one or two. And usually I could get maybe 4 for $20. Well, not anymore.
Uh-oh.
Not anymore. I think the price of those things went up. I'm guessing 70%. And then I said, well, this is an interesting dilemma. I can buy more food than I can tobacco with the same $20. So I may be forced out of the cigar smoking
Maybe
business
forced out of the
completely.
business. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if the fire insurance went up on the cigar store.
What a dilemma. What a
What a
dilemma
dilemma.
for an old buck with a little vice, huh? Yeah.
Ay, 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 ay.
Well, yeah. So reality dawned on me, and there you go. I'm
Yeah.
probably unless I earn some extra bucks doing something, I'll be probably not enjoying too many cigars.
Yeah.
So,
Oh man.
hey,
Like
any good books on your end lately? Any reading? I've been kind of bored.
any good books? I just finished a short story collection by Claire Keegan. I think these were 7 stories. 6 of them take place in Ireland. And I'll give it kind of 3 stars out of 5. The problem with reading a short story collection all written by the same author is they start sounding the same. Okay, so there were common elements in each of the stories. A woman in love with the priest does it, or is a bad priest, or it was a lot of people gave it rave reviews. I didn't give it such a great review. Look up Claire Keegan, you might like her stuff. I'm reading another collection now, and it's an Israeli author, and I just started it, so I really can't say too much about it. Here's what I could say about that. I could give you a public service announcement.
Go ahead.
All right, and you're when you were talking about getting easier to back in the car collision thing.
Oh, you're talking about that. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm framing this as a public service announcement. As we were driving up, driving up from Florida to Pennsylvania, New York. We were in a heavy rainstorm one day on the turnpike on the expressway, and something flew off a truck and hit the front of our car, hit the bumper. Right? Like, okay. And then later, I guess it was the next day, when I was probably backing out of a parking place at the hotel, my parking motion sensor went off. And it goes, and it's flashing you know, the navigation screen disappears and there's a big flashing thing there.
This is the thing that tells you something's beside you or something's
That there's,
behind you.
yeah, kind of proximity sensors for particularly when you're parking, if you're, you know, lets you know if you're getting close to another car or a pole or something.
Okay, okay.
You know what those. And then it would not stop. Anytime we went below 10 miles an hour, came to a stop, this thing would launch. Okay.
I'm
And
laughing because that had to be annoying if you were,
oh, it was a
because a
lot.
lot of times you're mostly going 10 mile an hour, a lot of times in
You're
traffic.
going, yes, yeah. And the other thing is I'm in town a lot of the time doing that, and I'm trying to find my way around neighborhoods that I'm not so familiar with, and I've got the GPS on. Now it's all gone. There's nothing. So I thought, oh man, I got to get this fixed. So I Google, I find 3 dealers in the area. I called all 3 dealers. Now, you know how many humans I talked to at each of these places. You can probably guess.
And I don't even know if did you get one?
Well, I got one at one of the places, yeah.
And
And
there you go. That's another problem with this world
yeah.
today.
So eventually, you know, their voicemail hell system shuttles me to service. And of course the phone rings and there's no pickup, and I'm told to just leave the information and the message and we'll get right back to you. You know how that goes. So
Yep, I do. I've
all
had
3
that
of them,
happen.
of course, got back to me immediately. No, I'm just making that up. They didn't get back to me at all, of course. Sent a note to my son. He's kind of a motorhead. And I said, you know, should I go to, there's a garage that he knows that I know. Anyway, he said, spend a little bit of time on YouTube, just Googling your issue. He says, I think you'll get a solution. And lo and behold, I did. And I looked at, there were 3 or 4 videos and they were all the same. They were all under a minute long. It's like, okay, on your dashboard, there's a button that's got a P on it with a traffic cone. Depress that button and the light will go out. And that's what happened. Okay.
So the car, obviously you didn't see that button before. Is it underneath
No,
on the
it's there.
dashboard?
It's there. It's in the lower part. It's in the lower part of the dashboard there.
So you were able to simply turn off the
Yeah,
sensor.
no, it doesn't fix the fact that I've got a faulty sensor. But it turns all the sensors off, so the parking sensors don't work anymore.
Well, the way you related the story, I assumed that the bump, something hit the front bumper. There was a sensor there that could have been
Yeah,
hurt.
there's a mark on the front bumper where something looked like something hit it right below where this sensor is in. You know, of course, the
Ah.
sensor's inside, but
Are you going to go to trouble to see if you can get that fixed sometime?
eventually, but not today. Not today.
Well, you're still kind of traveling now. You probably don't have time to be chasing that because you'd have to leave the car for a week. You know how that goes for something like
Exactly.
that.
Yeah, I guess so. My service announcement is look for that button, folks, if you have the same issue. It's a temporary solution.
Look for the button. And your son, who gives his father some advice,
I got
says
some,
simply Google it or
yeah,
YouTube it and see if there's somebody out there that always hasn't experienced that. I'll tell you
yeah,
how to do it. So you figured out how to do it. I've
of
done that a
course.
couple times on the YouTube thing. They must have done everything out there, everything you can think of. So all in all, for that one, hey,
That's it. That's it.
that's it. I was going to comment on your, you tend, when it comes to reading, you tend to read short story collections. I think you gave me one here the other day. Is a series of short stories. You read a lot of short stories.
I do. I do. I
You
mean,
do.
I like short stories in general. I guess mainly because my attention span is is so short. I don't know.
Is that the logic behind that?
I think so.
Because I mean, you've given. I can think of at least a half a dozen 400-page books that you've given me that were fantastic, and they were unique. There wasn't about a detective. It had something else to do with something. And
Oh yeah, I mean, certainly I read fiction and nonfiction novels and that sort of thing as well, memoirs. For every one I read, I probably walk away from a couple of them because,
And while you're traveling out there, do you have much time to read? I mean, you're in familiar territory and you've been riding.
Yeah. I'm still doing my reading. Still reading some lot in the evening. Yeah. Can't get the Pirate games here in Pittsburgh, so I read. It's terrible.
You went to a Pirate game?
No. I'm in the local market here, so you can't watch the Pirate games on TV. You know, all these deals that they have. So they're always blacked out. So, and of course, I bought MLB. I bought the MLB package, so I could watch the games in Florida, which I could watch just about every game. But it's the local market up here, so I can't watch Pirate games through MLB either. So,
well, you're going to have to go over to the stadium and attend a real game. I'm happy for you having a good time in a familiar neighborhood up there, and especially with the fact that you're enjoying the weather. So, anything else on your mind?
I don't know. I think we're done here.
You think episode 152 is about ready to close today?
I think we got used up here today. Yeah.
I agree. We got a couple interesting people in the pipeline that we ran into. We'd like to talk to. Hopefully, in the near future, we'll be able to elaborate more on that issue. But otherwise, it's always good to talk to you. This is a classic old buck coffee shop conversation. But anybody listening, hope they enjoy that. And feel free to chime in with your thoughts. There's several ways to contact us: email and BUCKSTWOOLD@gmail.com, and that voice pipe, which really works good. So all the best to all our listeners out there. Keep in touch. This is Old Buck Dale saying thank you. Talk to you next time.
Old Buck Day right behind you saying take care, folks. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.